You are listening to KELP El Paso. Feed your mind, feed your soul at 1590 AM, 95.9 FM. Streaming worldwide at KELPradio.com.
915 Talk is a production of Desert Voice Media. You can visit desertvoice.media to learn more.
915 TALK.
The world is looking at El Paso.
What will we say to the world? From the KELP studio in El Paso, this is 915 Talk.
And now your host,
Episode 339 of 915 Talk. Good afternoon, beautiful citizens of the borderland. This is 915 Talk. I'm your host, Andy Frecka, and today we are yet again broadcasting from the heart of the world's largest borderplex. We're here at the KELP studio in El Paso. And today we have Mac Daddy Del Norte on the board. Mac Daddy, how you doing?
I'm doing pretty good, Andy. How about yourself?
I'm doing great. You know, we have a special guest today, and now we know who it is.
Yes, exactly. It's not Mac Daddy. It's Michael.
No, Mac Daddy is not the special guest. But, you know, we talk so often on this program with so many good people around town.
Yeah, that's right.
And they're involved doing so many good things, often with nonprofits.
Yes.
And there's quite the interesting dynamic that a lot of nonprofits have. Mm-hmm. Usually they have a director, other positions.
Yes.
And then do you know who's kind of in charge behind the scenes?
Well, it just depends.
The board. There's like a board, and there's different kinds of boards.
Yeah.
And some of these boards are fantastic. And some boards are on a learning curve.
Oh, yeah.
So we're going to be talking about that because I like to believe that everyone on all the boards is there for a good, because they want to help out the community.
Yes.
They want to do good. They have a heart for whatever that nonprofit is doing. Mm-hmm. But sometimes maybe a little input would be helpful.
Of course.
Learning how to be more effective. So that's what we're going to be talking today.
All right.
And today we have a very special guest with us.
Yes, yes.
Do you know why he's special?
Definitely, because he is the unique expression of an endlessly creative God.
Yes, he is a unique expression of an endlessly creative God. Also, he's not to be confused with you.
Correct.
This is his second time on the program. And what happened was the first time he was on, we were talking about the Paso del Norte Health Foundation. Mm-hmm. And we got on this kind of little bit of tangent about boards. And he had such good answers. I said, would you come on again?
Yes.
Just to talk about that dynamic between running a nonprofit and being a part of the board. How can we work better together to serve our community better together? So he's the vice president of programs at the Paso del Norte Health Foundation. He's involved with grant making, so many community initiatives he's a part of. But we have so much to talk about. So without further ado, let's give a very warm Borderland welcome to the one, the only, Dr. Michael Kelly. Michael, welcome back.
Thank you. Thank you for having me back.
Yeah, so we have a lot to unpack over this next hour. But before we get into all of that, maybe just a little bit of what's going on over at the Paso del Norte Health Foundation.
Yeah, it's a great year for us. This is a strategic planning year at the foundation, which means, all of our initiatives kind of really get looked at very deeply. We update all our data. We look at our strategies. Do we need to build new coalitions, have different grant programs, media campaigns? How's evaluation doing? And the program staff just love writing those strategic plans.
Do they?
No, they don't. They're pretty hard to write. You got to crank them out fast.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. But it's coming to an end. We're getting them all done.
So, okay. And I think those of us here in El Paso, we've seen the name Paso del Norte around town. You're doing so many different things. I was looking at your bio, and one of the things here it says is you evaluate collective impact initiatives.
Right.
What is that?
Well, some foundations, particularly health foundations, they kind of do this Johnny Appleseed thing where, you get a little money, go do your thing. You get a little money, go do your thing, and the like. And you can really get a lot more leverage and power when you convene people and focus, so you really don't go that kind of inch deep and mile wide. You go the other way. And collective impact is a model that focuses grantees and partners on a particular problem and a defined set of solutions. So, for example, we talked about diabetes, I think, last time. We bring together people. We have training on, like, how do you do better diabetes education? How do we evaluate that? And we just really double down and organize these nonprofits.
Okay. Yes, so much going on with that. I feel like we could talk easily more than 1 hour about everything that's going on with Paso del Norte and everything you're doing there. But like we said at the beginning of the program, there's so many good people in the borderland, and they're doing good things. They're wanting to do more. And so often there can be a little bit of confusion about what even a board is for a nonprofit. But maybe a good place to start the conversation is there might be someone out there who's maybe starting a nonprofit, and they might be thinking to themselves, why do I need a board?
Well, I guess to begin with, legally you're going to have a board.
Right.
So you're going to have a board to incorporate. But nonprofit organizations really benefit from the board, and a new nonprofit can have a working board. And you may be familiar with some of these where you just really don't even have a staff. And the board of directors is coming in, doing the work, and also on the board. So if they're going to like run a food pantry or something, for example, they may actually be packing the food and handing it out, a couple times a month or something. Yeah, it's normally a pretty small operation when that happens. But we call that a working board. And we expect the board to do a lot. When you get to a governing board, now what you're really talking about is a slightly larger nonprofit that has staff. And that's the executive director you talked about.
Right.
Certainly like a program staff person, people who do the activities. You may have accounting staff, communication staff, those types of things. But yep, you're going to want those because then the governing board's going to really provide some great input on strategy for you.
Right, and you mentioned to have a nonprofit you have to have a board. That's a legal requirement. Sometimes, occasionally, not to. I'm certainly not going to name any names, but I've talked to some nonprofit leaders who say, I have a board, but they kind of just do whatever I ask them to do. Speak into that dynamic.
Rubber stamp board. Yeah.
Right.
You don't want that. You really don't. I mean, I think in the short run, when a board or a committee of the board rubber stamps what the CEO or the staff are doing, it can feel like relief, like, they never question me. But they're never questioning. They're never pushing the boundaries, and I think it could be a sign that they're not really invested in the organization and its strategy and its future.
Right.
So if that's happening, I'd rearrange those board meetings and maybe rearrange the board some and change that up.
Yeah, because I think the idea is if you're not being challenged, if you're such a superstar that you're not being challenged, then that's not a great dynamic for even on a personal level.
Right. The boards should be really helpful with the strategy piece. And, I always like to say, particularly with these governing boards, you should start off your board meeting with strategy. I mean, go ahead and take attendance or say the Pledge of Allegiance or whatever you're doing on your board. No, really, I was on the Boy Scout board for a while. You always had the Pledge of Allegiance. Right?
Gotcha. Well, that's great.
And that's fine. But don't kill them with reports to start with. Use the board right away and say, like, look, let's talk about this problem or a potential future, and lots of examples I could give there.
Right. Okay. So some boards govern and others advise. If someone's maybe at the beginning stages of a nonprofit, or maybe going through transition and understanding that things need to change, or a board that's just advising.
Yeah. A lot of times it's not a choice of that group. If you're going to start a new nonprofit, you're going to need a governing board, someone that has fiduciary responsibilities, that can hire and fire the executive director, who are really on the line financially for that organization.
Yeah.
Some local chapters, like if local American Cancers, local lungs, those types of things in various cities. Even local hospitals will say that, well, we have boards, but then you ask them, like, well, can you really hire and fire that CEO? Can you adjust that budget? And the answer is no, we can't. Okay, well, you're more of an advisory board.
Right.
It's just a different role. It's not a different value. And those are really important. And I think if you serve on an advisory board, you might move over to the governing board one day. Sometimes the governing board is a national board, and then they just have, like, in the cities locally, they'll have advisory groups or advisory boards, they call them.
Yeah, and when you're looking at board members or potential board members, I think sometimes it could be all about being able to tell your friends, I'm on that board. Like that's the flex. But what is the responsibility?
It's fiduciary is your big one. That means you're responsible for the money, and you better be ready for that, because bad things can happen. And when I think of nonprofits that got in trouble and an executive director who had to be let go, it's typically around the money. They lost track of it. Billing was wrong. Something was happening strange in the fundraising, but it's around money. It's not around program. It's not around the social media accounts or building maintenance or anything like that.
Yeah,
it's around the money. So that's I would say the real big one.
That's an interesting point. We have a lot of church folk who listen to this program, and I was speaking with someone I trust very much, even about church governance, and I was asking some questions, and he said, "You always start off with the money. Look at the accounting, look at the bookkeeping." And that's kind of your point. At least that's what I'm hearing you say.
Right.
Is that's a good place to start to learn how it's being run.
Yeah, I mean, if I were advising a probably a little more mature board, I'd say have a finance committee. So this is a subgroup of your board. They don't all have to be board members, but you got to have a few board members on this committee, right? So committees are of the board, right? That's what a committee is, and the finance committee needs to meet monthly and review all those expenses for that nonprofit. And you should have people that have accounting backgrounds or legal backgrounds or financial advisor backgrounds or banking background, on that finance committee, so that they're pretty quickly able to kind of go through and spot, like, ooh, these numbers look off. Why does that look off to me? And you want that accountability.
Yeah, absolutely. And with that, I mean, there's the accountability of making sure the bookkeeping is up to, I don't know if the right term here is up to snuff,
Yep.
but where it needs to be. But is the other part of that fundraising?
It is. You're going to have to bring in money. I frequently say, if you're on a board, you got to give, you got to get, or you got to get off. But you really should be giving your own personal money, I think, if you're on a board of directors to the organization. Point. Yeah. I think it's a real fair question to ask when someone says, "Hey, will you join this board?" If you say, "Well, what are the like giving requirements of a board member. And a lot of times they'll be straight up and they'll say, this is the amount of money. And you can ask, well, is that a give or get number? Because, some people prefer just let me write you a check.
Yeah.
Other people would be like, I don't know if I can write a check, but I'll sell some tables for the gala or sell some tickets for the race or whatever the fundraiser is.
Yeah. No, I love that, and just kind of, to me, that's kind of specific in a way. Either you need to give or get off is what you said.
Right.
And I think the bottom line here is, as a board member, you have to have skin in the game.
You do. And I've seen that number probably as low as just a couple $100 a year for some boards. And for some boards, it's materially more.
Sure. I love that. Yeah. So if you're just joining us with Dr. Michael Kelly, he's with the Paso del Norte Health Foundation. We're talking about serving on boards, and particularly for boards of nonprofits, but I'm sure this could translate to boards of churches, educational institutions, and so on. We're going to continue this conversation, but first we do need to take a break. And before we go into the break, this is your daily reminder that 915 Talk is a production of Desert Voice Media. The website is just that, desertvoice.media. And if you click on that 915 Talk link, you can listen to this or any previous 915 Talk conversation as we continue on this educational journey, as we're learning to love our city, love our neighbors, and give God all the glory. I do believe that conversations like we're having today are super important. We need to have strong nonprofits here in the borderlands. So we're going to go into a break. After that, we'll continue this conversation. Do not touch that dial.
We'll be right back. Don't touch that dial.
915 Talk is listener supported and is a production of Desert Voice Media. That's right. It's people just like you who make this program possible. Together with Desert Voice, you can learn how to better serve our neighbors and pray for our community. To become a Desert Voice Media partner, you can visit desertvoice.media. That's right. That's the website, desertvoice.media. Take a look and join us today in reaching our borderland for Christ.
As a business owner or CEO, you carry a lot, big decisions, heavy responsibilities, and often no one to process it with. That's why C12 exists. C12 is a confidential peer advisory group for Christian business leaders who want to build great businesses for a greater purpose. It's not networking, and it's not a class. It's a room of leaders committed to excellence, accountability, and purpose. If that sounds like what you've been missing, learn more at c12borderplex.com.
915.
Testify.
So growing up, I actually grew up to be a Muslim. And it wasn't up until high school when I started going to church and I didn't know who Jesus Christ really was. It wasn't up until April of this past year in 2024 when I fully surrendered to Christ. I was an alcoholic. I was a man full of lust. I was just lost in the sinful nature of this world. And I didn't know how to comprehend certain things. I didn't know how to have a proper relationship. It was just tormenting me from the inside. But I'm here to tell you today that Jesus Christ changed my life for the better, serving at the capacity, knowing that I have a purpose and moving with that purpose because I know that the world is coming to an end soon. My name is Marvis Davis, and I'm here to tell you that if Jesus Christ did it for me, he could also do it for you too.
And they overcame him by the blood of the Lamb
And by the word of their testimony.
desertvoice.media.
We're back. You're listening to 915 Talk.
We are back, and you are listening to 915 Talk. I'm your host, Andy Frecka. Today we are with Dr. Michael Kelly. He's with the Paso del Norte Health Foundation. We're talking about serving on nonprofit boards. I think that this is a super useful conversation as we look to serve our community better. And before the break, Michael, we were talking a little bit about, if you're not giving, if you're not getting, you need to get off. But if someone is being asked to serve on a board, what are some of the questions they should be asking before just agreeing to that honor of having a position?
Yeah. I mean, I think you got to ask at least one question of yourself, and that's, do you believe in the mission? You know, I've heard of people being asked sometimes, like, can you get on that board and help change that place? Because I don't like the way it's working.
Okay.
And, I guess you could do that, but and you always want to improve the organization you're volunteering with, but you got to believe in the mission. You got to say, I want to make this better. I have an affinity for this organization and this mission. And don't do it because your friend's the executive director, or
Right.
because, that's a big name board and I'll look really good there, or I can make some good connections for business. Those are bad reasons. And
Right.
they're not going to pan out well in the end. I mean, some of that's going to happen positively for you, I think, on a lot of boards, but definitely believe in the mission of the organization.
Yeah, I guess the the humor there is you're saying you shouldn't join a board probably to change the organization.
Right.
And it's reminding me of very good life advice. Don't expect to change your spouse.
Right.
Don't get married and expect to change your spouse. In the same way, don't join a board expecting to change the organization. Of course, you want to improve the situation.
That's right.
But changing is a very different thing.
I think so. That's what I'm saying. Yeah. But ask practical questions. So, how often does the board meet? What's expected of me? How much time is required? And hopefully they're telling you the truth. I mean, I think boards should probably meet at least 6 times a year. The finance needs to be looked at a little more often, I believe, at least monthly. But many times if you have functional committees of the board, the board can function with 6 meetings a year. Otherwise, you're going to probably need 12 meetings a year. Ask about fundraising. Am I expected to sell tables to the gala? Those types of things. Ask for what's called the organization's 990.
Right.
It's a kind of a tax paper, and look over it. Look over a balance sheet if they'll share with you, or the last minutes of a board meeting, and get a sense of kind of what that organization is doing. Ask them some practical questions about their policy manual, like, do you have a conflict of interest policy? What are the term limits? I wouldn't get on a board unless I understood, like, okay, this is a 3-year term, and then I'm off, or you could be reelected for 3 years.
Sure.
But
Or is this a lifetime?
right, you don't want that. I don't want that.
Right.
It's like getting appointed to ushering.
Well,
Do it forever.
That's funny. But what would you say the turnover rate, and there's no way probably to quantify this exactly, the turnover rate of a healthy board?
Well, I mean, I would think you wouldn't want more than about a third of your board turning over annually.
Okay.
I mean, you really want stability, but you also want that new blood coming in. So about a third of your board. But, if every year, say you have maybe 13 board members and 1, 2, maybe 3 roll off, and you get 1, 2, 3 that replace. And sometimes you get fewer that roll off, and sometimes you get a little extra because the right person is really where the fit is more than the number.
Right. Is there an amount of time of serving on a board that you're like, that's too much?
It depends on the board, I guess, but I would be cautious after about 9 years.
Okay. Yeah.
I mean, that's just off the top of my head.
And I think it's dependent on the situation. But I think that the big deal here is we're saying you shouldn't be serving on a board forever.
Right. And frankly, the organization's bylaws will probably address term limits.
Right.
And you should ask to see the organization's bylaws, their strategic plans, recent audit. Ask if they have directors and officers insurance, because you're going to be liable for this organization if there's some mistakes that happen, and you want to make sure you're covered.
Right. And yeah, I guess when I look at this, one of the questions that would come to my mind is, how much time does this going to take out of my schedule?
Yeah. Well, the board meeting's only a part of it. And
That's an important point.
Yeah. I mean, like in that, you say you're meeting monthly. It could probably be a 2-hour board meeting, maybe more. Okay, so fine. You know you're going to do that. But I think a pretty solid organization gets the notes and the prep materials to their board members about a week ahead of time. And that board member is expected to study and know those materials. You know,
Right.
don't walk into the boardroom and go, okay, tell
Learn
me
about
everything I
stuff for
need
the
to know
first
now.
time,
You know,
right.
right, I'm a sponge. Tell me. No, I mean that's going to draw that meeting out.
Right. Okay. All right. So with all that in mind, let's say all the everything comes together well, and you decide to join the board, and we're kind of talking about that right now. But what is the board member actually doing?
Well, the number one, I think they're setting direction.
Okay.
They're keeping in mind the mission statement, sometimes even changing the mission statement. Like during strategic planning years, it's healthy to look at a mission statement and say, do we want to keep this or not? Really looking at the strategy that the organization is using, their outreach strategy, what their income strategy is for like fundraising, and then just looking at the priorities of the organization and being a friend and a supporter of the executive director. Because really, the board only supervises that executive director. The board doesn't supervise the staff. And that can get people in trouble sometimes.
Yeah,
They don't know that.
I think that's a major point. I think sometimes boards think that they get confused with what their role is and what the executive director's role is.
Right. All the staff work for the executive director. Many times they're called CEOs in nonprofits today, but executive director is still used. And the board really just supervises one employee or contractor, as the case can be, and that's the executive director.
Well, let's look at this from the other side. If you're an executive director and the board is trying to get into areas of the organization that's not under their purview, is there a good rule of thumb on how to deal with that?
Not really. No. I
like the honest answer.
You're going to have some frank conversations, and a lot of times your board chair, the board chair has been around a while, and hopefully has been to some training. I'm going to talk about some training we offer here in a little bit. But the board polices itself. Mm-hmm. And it becomes the job of other board members and of the board chair to say, that's not our role, right? Because it's really hard for a staff person, even the executive director, to talk to their boss, which is the board, and say, you're out of line.
Right.
Right. But we know they're out of line if they're trying to give direct direction to individual staff members. That direction needs to go to the executive director and have the executive director direct his or her staff.
Right. Okay. So the main function of a board, you said, is set mission, vision, strategy, major organizational priorities, and then let's get back to the resource part.
Right. Financial resources are really big. So you're going to be expected, like I said earlier, to give some of your personal money and to help with fundraising. And sometimes there are committees, like a gala committee that can be put together that year. And you may decide, hey, I want to chair that or be on it. And those can be really working committees where you're finding speakers, certainly going out and asking for sponsorships. That's going to be a big thing. It depends on the size of the organization. You might have a marketing, communications, or a fundraising staff at the agency who's really going to be helpful, but you might not. And that committee is going to be really, really important. But keeping in mind, and this kind of goes with the finance piece, right, is you have good, steady income. So you're going to be looking at that always.
Okay. All right. Well, there's a lot there. You've been saying the word committee, and we're talking about boards. I think it would be helpful if we could quantify where does a committee jump in? Yeah. And like, where does the board stop? Where does the committee begin? Yeah.
So the board can run everything themselves if that's what they want to do. Mm-hmm. But it's really helpful to have a committee that specializes in something. For example, you can have a committee on finance, and I strongly encourage that. You could have a committee that does the audit. That could be the finance committee as well. You could have a program committee. So a lot of nonprofits have like a main programmatic outreach they do, and then that committee really supervises that program. You can have marketing committees, just all these different types of committees.
Yeah, so my understanding is, in broad terms, the board is usually the broad oversight, and the committee is when you need to get into the weeds a little bit more.
Right. So a committee, I like a committee meeting before a board meeting, typically a week or so. But some committees actually meet the morning of, just right before a board meeting, and I think it's a little tough for that way. And you know, they really get down and deep. So the gala committee can really talk about, well, what kind of centerpieces are we going to have, and those types of things. And then you're not really using your board meeting time for that level of detail, and you can focus on strategy and money and CEO evaluations and all those types of things that the whole board needs to be looking at.
Okay, well, I think that's an important point you're making. The committee ideally would meet a week before the board meeting and present what they've come up with as they've kind of gone into the weeds a little bit more, so that they're giving the board more information.
Right. I like to see the committee meet, kind of then type up their findings, and then the chair of that committee present at the board meeting. You really would like the board talking more at a board meeting than staff. You don't want staff like the executive director just standing up front talking to the committee. You want to that board. You want committee members. You want the board chair leading those after staff. Yeah.
That's super cool. If you're just joining us with Dr. Michael Kelly, he's with the Paso del Norte Health Foundation. We're talking about that relationship with, well, what is a board of a nonprofit? How does it work in a healthy way? This is so important as we work to serve our community well. We're going to continue this conversation, but right now we have Charlie One on the phone. Charlie One, what are you seeing out on the roads this afternoon?
There's a lot going on here, Andy. I-10 east of Giles. Now, this crash just happened. However, I see a car kind of sideways there. So what's happening here is that traffic is really getting jammed up here. I-10 east of Giles, and the traffic is so far backing up to Hawkins, probably going to reach the airway area soon. Again, that's I-10 east of Giles with that crash just jamming the traffic there. The right two lanes are blocked. The rest of the lanes are bumper to bumper right now. Then we have Santa Fe and down injury crash. Northeast Dyer and Diana crash. But the other major problem that we have right now, the big major problem, is that train derailment. Now, this train derailment happened in Cotton, Missouri a few hours ago, but as a result of this is what's blocked off you need to know about. I-10 West, the Cotton off-ramp is blocked off. Cotton, Missouri, closed. Cotton, Texas, blocked off. Gateway West at Cotton, all lanes blocked off right there at Gateway West at Cotton because of this train derailment there in that central area. So you want to avoid all that area if at all possible. And sometimes it can be a real jungle out there. And make sure your teenager learns to drive safely and with confidence with Jungle Driving School, located conveniently at the shops of Solano on El Paso West Side. Jungle Driving School, called 900-4943, and 10% discount for KELP listeners. Andy, back to you.
Charlie One, this afternoon we have with us Dr. Michael Kelly. He's with the Paso del Norte Health Foundation. We're talking about what it is to be on what is it to be serving on a nonprofit board, and in some cases, what could a healthy nonprofit board look like? And what I'm thinking about is maybe one thing that could spice up a board meeting would be if everyone had bowls of menudo. Where would you recommend those board members find those bowls of menudo?
A bowl in the refrigerator until you're ready to eat it, maybe in the morning, but you'll have it there handy. Just stick it in the microwave. Be sure to get that oregano. Delicious, makes it even taste more delicious, that menudo. Eastside Choice Meats, Lomaland and Trey with Andy, back to you.
Thank you, Charlie One. We'll talk soon.
Thanks.
And we're back with Dr. Michael Kelly with the Paso del Norte Health Foundation, talking about what is it to serve, what does it mean to serve on a nonprofit board? In some cases, like I said, what does a healthy nonprofit board look like? Probably bowls of menudo could be a part of that conversation. Could be. But as we might have some listeners out there right now, Michael, they're listening to our conversation. They're saying, oh man, I'm part of a nonprofit and it's just a mess. Is there a place I can go to for us all to, I don't know, do penance or get trained?
There is. So the first thing I want this person to ask themselves is like, am I really doing the 3 duties of a board member? My duty of care, which just means, am I attending? Am I preparing? Am I asking questions? Your duty of loyalty, that is putting that organization first. There's no conflict of interest and stuff. And your duty of obedience, remaining faithful to that organization's mission. And hopefully you're doing all that. But if you're really interested in upping your game, this is where the Paso del Norte Health Foundation is partnering with the United Way of El Paso County to offer what we call PDN board training.
PDN?
Paso del Norte.
Oh, gotcha.
There you go.
I should have figured that out.
That's right.
Not to be confused with my sidekick, Mac Daddy Del Norte. PDN.
PDN board training.
Right.
Yeah. So, your listeners can go to the United Way of El Paso County's website or Google the board training. And there are sessions starting September 8th and going through December 15th. And right now they have a special on bundle pricing. Normally it's $25 for a session. It's kind of a lunch and learn. But for $225 now, I believe that's the price, you can get the whole bundle and go to all of these sessions on essential functions of the board, ethical decision-making, financial oversight. And the board trainers are board source trained. So board source is an excellent national organization that just focuses on helping boards function well. And they're facilitated locally. We have a local expert who works with them, like how to do their training better. So they've also served as board members, and some of them as executive directors as well of nonprofits. So they're gonna come into the room and talk about financial oversight or fundraising fundamentals or how to build a high trust culture in a board, and other important things you could ask about, like, hey, we haven't evaluated our CEO in a long time, and I just heard in this training CEO has to be evaluated annually. I mean, like that's really a good practice. How do you do that? And they can kind of get into the detail with you.
Right. Okay. Wow. That's super cool. There's so many parts to that, and I would say probably given the size of almost any nonprofit, $225 is incredibly reasonable.
I think it is.
Yeah.
I think it is. Well, the Paso del Norte Health Foundation helps underwrite this. And, so our main mission at the Health Foundation is to promote health, right? Prevent disease. And we do that through grants to nonprofits. And our dollars will go further if the nonprofit is like really high functioning. So we don't want to just like make a donation and walk away. We want to help that nonprofit reach their mission that they care about, and this is just one of the ways we do that.
Okay, so let me ask you this, because you're in the grant writing world, and I love that you're underwriting this. You're a part of that. What are some ways that you determine when you're looking at a nonprofit that they're working in a healthy way with their board or not?
Yeah. So a lot of focus does go on the grant application. So it comes in and it has a budget and has some goals and like a timeline and activities, and that's really important. But we also have a phase we call the organizational assessment. And our staff visit an organization, interview board members, look at the audits, and ask some of these questions that board members should be asking, like, do you have a conflict of interest policy? When was your last audit? What is your credit card policy? Can anyone get a hold of one of those and start running it up? Right. Those things will get you in trouble.
Sure.
And we can spend hours just doing this nonprofit organizational assessment because we want to make sure they're strong. Sounds a little bit like
an interrogation.
It kind of is. It kind of, but we sit there sometimes with a board member, and the board member's like, "This is great. I've never asked these questions," and I'm like, "Well, you should have."
Right. Well, that's amazing. If the board member is that open, I would think in some situations people would get defensive, but really, what you're talking about is, I mean, at the end of the day, we're talking about helping people on one end, and we're talking about doing the right thing for the people who are investing money, who are donating.
Right. I mean, I have a responsibility to make sure that the grant money is used right, and I can look at an application and it's like, yeah, this all looks good, but until you actually arrive at that nonprofit and walk around and talk with people and look through their board minutes and these types of things, that'll give you a good sense.
Right. Okay. I'm sure you have stories, but we won't talk about those on the radio. but I love that it's not just what you see on paper, but you go out there in person.
Right.
That's really cool, and I would think that for some organizations maybe they don't pass, but they learn a lot, and or not pass, but the grant isn't granted, but they learn a lot, and maybe they're able to make themselves stronger and come back the next year.
That's right. And I think all of them, even some of the strong ones, they're like, yeah, we should probably think about having like an AI policy. I ask about.
Right.
Do you have a policy for how artificial intelligence is used?
Right.
And like the nonprofit's like, oh no. I'm like, okay. I mean, that's not going to disqualify you.
Yeah.
But you may want that.
That has been brought up a few times recently on this program, and so I feel like since you brought it up, I need to underline that. Almost every organization out there will have an internet use policy, but we also need to have an AI policy because, generally speaking, your employees are using AI, but if you don't have a policy, they're all using it the way that they know to use it.
That's right.
And it's the Wild West.
It is. And I mean, I think you better be really careful, especially if you're using free versions. You could have somebody sticking your finances and HR files in there and asking them to help write letters or do calculations, and that confidential material. If you're going to put it in there, just make sure you have a policy and you know what you're doing.
Yeah. Be very, very careful. Love that. And again, there is this. What are we calling it again? The training.
Yeah, the training. So each session's about 2 hours long, and it's just a fabulous mix of a trainer that has experience, that has great resource materials, and will give you both practical advice and not legal advice, but like this is what Board Source says is a best practice.
Yeah.
So you should go do those. They'll also come out to your organization. So if you're going to have a retreat, let's say one Saturday, and you're like, I really would like our whole board to hear this piece about fundraising or how to read our financial statements or whatever it is. You just call down there to the United Way of El Paso County, ask them about the board training, and tell them I'd like a couple trainers on these topics to come out to my board retreat, in a few weeks on a Saturday, and they'll quote you a price and send some trainers out for you.
Yeah, that's so cool. And you talk about these different topics, they're so good. And I would think that a 2-hour training, for if anyone's ever been to a really bad board meeting, fixing anything by going to a 2-hour training sounds so easy. It's so worth it.
Yeah. I mean, the board training, I've talked with people that walk out and they're like, man, I just learned something new every time. And then other times it's like, no, I knew that, but we're not doing it. And we need, it's a good reminder. We purposely put ethical decision making into every board training, so not just the finance ones. And our trainers run case studies or give examples of ethical challenges, because I think this is something boards really need to watch, not only for themselves, but for their staff and for their whole organization, because next to finances, ethical challenges can really start causing some problems for a nonprofit.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So for those maybe you're just tuning in, we're with Dr. Michael Kelly. He's with the Paso del Norte Health Foundation. They're underwriting a portion of this board training. I think this is so very useful. I don't mean to make light of this. As a matter of fact, it's super serious. We need to get this right. We need to have well-run boards in the nonprofit space so that we can serve our community better. So, Michael, for those maybe who are just tuning in, where can they find the information on this training?
At the United Way of El Paso County's website.
Okay.
There's a link to their board training. It'll tell you all the dates, the topics for those dates, their lunch and learns, $25 a class. I'd encourage, take a bunch of board members down for lunch a couple times a month and just to attend these, or like I say, ask them to come out to your board and do a special training just for you.
That's so great. We're going to continue this conversation. We're going to be talking about what does it mean to become a great board member. But first, this break. Do not touch that dial.
We'll be right back. Don't touch that dial.
Greetings, KELP listeners. This is Terry Gray, pastor of Calvary Chapel, Sun City, and speaker on the Summons broadcast heard each weekday at 5 p.m. right here on this station. Calvary Chapel, Sun City is located at 960 West Borderland Road on the west side of El Paso. We hold services on Wednesday evenings at 7 and on Sunday mornings at 9 and 11. If you are without a church home, we would love to have you join us for worship and Bible study. You can find out more information about us on the web at www.ccsuncity.org.
This is Pastor Steve Castrita. I'd like to extend the invitation for you to join us in service every Saturday at 5 p.m. at Redeeming Grace Church, El Paso. We are located at 2400 George Dieter inside Iglesia Philadelphia. We're a young church on the east side of El Paso with no smoke, no lasers, and no gimmicks, just the uncompromising Word of God and a call to win the 915 for Jesus Christ. We'd love to meet you and your family. God bless you, and thank you for listening to KELP.
Greetings, KELP listeners. My name is Terry Gray, and I have the joy and privilege of serving as the pastor of Calvary Chapel, Sun City, located on the west side of El Paso. I also have the joy of connecting with the radio audience in the borderland through the Summons broadcast heard each weekday at 5 p.m. right here on this station. On Summons, we study the Bible book by book, chapter by chapter, verse by verse, precept by precept. Please join us each weekday at 5 p.m. for Summons right here on KELP.
We're back. You're listening to 915 Talk.
We are back, and you are listening to 915 Talk. I'm your host, Andy Frecca. Today we're with Dr. Michael Kelly. He's with the Paso del Norte Health Foundation. We're talking about what it means to have a great board. Mm-hmm. And this is one of those conversations, if you're just tuning in, I would encourage you to find 915 Talk in podcast format. Our conversations are always posted the next day. So tomorrow, find this conversation with Dr. Michael Kelly. And if you're in that nonprofit space, learn about having a great board, because we need to serve this community well. We need to serve our donors well. And so a lot of, I guess, parts of this conversation, I think for a lot of people can be thinking, well, that sounds tedious, but it's important. It matters. So with all this in mind, Michael, what does it mean to be a great board member?
Well, being a board member is a skill. You can have been on a lot of boards and still not skilled. So the experience helps, but really learning how to be a board member and practicing that is going to take time. Mm-hmm. Great board members prepare for their board meetings. They read the material. And let me tell you, everybody in the room knows who's read the material.
They're going to know.
They're going to know. They're going to know. I think great board members listen a lot and take things in, but they also ask good questions. You know, they shouldn't be afraid to, and not just like quizzing the staff, but also just like strategically asking other board members, do you think we should be doing this or going in that direction? Or, hey, I have an idea for the future. And keep their eyes, you know, very strategic, not tactical, on like where should this organization be going, and some big decisions, which could include property decisions, certainly approving annual budgets, reviewing the CEO's compensation and doing that evaluation. Many boards are self-perpetuating, so that you need to be thinking about like, hey, I'm going to roll off next year. Who can I nominate or start bringing up a name that would be great to come on in and replace me or somebody else?
Yeah, it's I love what you said, just because maybe someone out there listening needs to hear this lovingly, but just because you've been on a lot of boards doesn't make you a great board member.
That's right. That's right. It doesn't.
Yeah. And so get out there, get trained, and you know, I think it is a good way to live. Be curious, understand that there might be, you know, in the trainings you were talking about, one little point that you've missed, and learning that point will change how the whole dynamic of that board.
Yeah. And, you know, it's important to show up to board meetings. Oh, my goodness, I had to say that, right? Yeah. I mean, if you're going to be on a board, calendar those things out and commit to going. A lot of boards are now allowing the Zoom option. And that's great when you have a conflicting business meeting and you're out of town or something. But, you know, I find that being in the room live, there's no substitution for that. You just really see the communication and the posture of other board members, and it's like, ooh, they have a concern about that. I can see it in their eyes. And I like being in the room.
Yeah, I agree with that so much. This hour has flown by, not to end the conversation on a negative note, but in the several minutes we have left, what are some signs of a troubled board?
Yeah, well, if your board members aren't attending, that's one. If you have a couple people that are just dominating everything and the rest of them are just sitting there and going, yeah, that's fine with me, let me go. If you start having conflicts of interest, my brother-in-law could do that contract for you. You don't want those types of things. Mission drift can be a big one. Hey, we could get some money if we did that. It's like, well, that's not really our mission. Stay on relationships. If the CEO or executive director is fighting with the board, that's a recipe for disaster. There's no succession plan for your CEO. You're going to have one of those if you don't. Address that pretty quickly. If you're not really looking at the financials as a board, if you've assigned one person, like, oh, they're really smart, let them look at the finances for us all, you're in trouble. Yeah. The board needs to really be understanding that.
Okay. Yeah. I think you hit us with a lot of things, and I hope that those who are listening, if you're part of a board, if you're part of a nonprofit, you caught those. The good news is we still have some time. So we talked about what's a troubled board. What are some signs of maybe a board that you would consider to be high performing?
Yeah, I think a high trust board where you can tell that trust is working, where the board members showed up prepared and like, wow, y'all read everything, we can move through this quickly, where they police themselves and they say things like, hey, I have a conflict of interest. I'm going to step out of this room right now for this discussion, and please let me know when the discussion and vote is over. I'll come back in and participate. Yeah. When there's a disagreement about, no, I don't think we should do that it's healthy and not unhealthy.
Yeah. Respectful.
Yeah, it's respectful. It's respectful. I think when the roles are kept really clear, like, look, I am not the CEO as a board member. I am governing and kind of keep that. I think an end-of-the-year assessment is really helpful, where anonymously board members say, what they got out of it, what they wish would change, and the CEO can look at those. You can just use SurveyMonkey or something, or a little paper and pencil survey, and see what the board members say. And then just generally, are you focusing on the mission? And, if your mission's health, you better be talking about health.
Right. Yeah. Okay. And Dr. Kelly, you've spent so much time in the nonprofit space here in the Borderland. How would the Borderland look different if all the nonprofits had healthy boards?
Oh, well, luckily a lot of them do. We have some really great boards that have wonderful bankers and architects and just community people that are stay at home, but they are on a board and do well. I think I hear multiple times a year of a nonprofit, and I can think of a few right now that I'm not going to name, that are like, wow, that nonprofit could go out of business. And those people struggling with that condition or need are not going to have it.
Sure.
I mean, we just don't have a ton of nonprofits overlapping and serving the same needs. So, when one of them goes out of business, that could be really impactful.
It matters.
It matters. I mean, private business, I think, has a wonderful role to play, especially if you can make some money, you can get market demand. I think private's definitely the way to go. And government's got to serve certain roles too. But the nonprofit space is also really important, because this is a space, like I was mentioning on the other show, where you do diabetes education, and you can't make money at that, but it's still really important.
Sure.
So private hospitals don't do it because you can't make money. So you need a nonprofit, and if those nonprofits go out of business, you're going to be in trouble. Now, luckily, our local diabetes center has a great board and is in wonderful financial shape, and I'm very proud of them. But I think, they're just super critical to our vulnerable populations in the region.
Right. Yeah. And again, I think this conversation for some people might have felt, I don't know, nerdy. Just because we're talking about how to run these organizations, but at the end of the day, you're pointing out that there's people who have needs.
Yeah.
We need to serve them well, and we need to have transparency in front of our donors. All of these things, and I mean, imagine a community where we had such an even stronger nonprofit space, and I love also that you pointed out there's so many great nonprofits out there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, Dr. Kelly, thank you so much for coming on today. We've been with Dr. Michael Kelly. He's with the Paso del Norte Health Foundation. We've been talking about what does a healthy nonprofit board look like, and I hope that if you missed it today, you'll listen to this in podcast format, because these conversations matter. As we always say, let's learn to love our city, love our neighbors, and give God all the glory. This has been 915 Talk.
You have been listening to 915 Talk, a production of Desert Voice Media. To listen to this or any previous edition of 915 Talk, just visit desertvoice.media and click on the 915 Talk link. Let's continue to learn to love our city, love our neighbors, and give God all the glory.